Please welcome Senior Director of Market Intelligence at Riskified, Eyal Elazar.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up.
Hi, everyone. So we just listened to Jeff and Pedro talk about the challenge of policy and how we're using data and technology to kind of identify abusive behavior in different touch points. Today, I want to talk to you about something slightly different, and it's using the same technology in order to try and predict the future and trying to predict trust, especially with new customers. So new customers are great. We're working very hard to acquire new customers. We're spending a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy to help them come and buy in our store. In a perfect world, every new customer is a celebration. But as we just heard, a lot of the new customers are not necessarily fantastic. Now, I'm not talking about fraudsters. Let's assume this is a legitimate customer, someone that's using their own credit card. We know that for some of the good customers, there are always bad customers. And the problem is, it's really hard to know who's who. And why is that? There's just not enough to go on. There's no purchase history. Even if it's the first claim, we don't really know what is their behavior in the past. We don't have any way to know what to predict. Even if they have a safe shipping address, even if they have a legitimate email, it's usually not enough. And this is where the guesswork kind of starts. Ideally, we would all draw the perfect line. Right there, pretty much, where all the good customers get amazing service, all the bad ones get the right type of friction. So in reality, the line looks a little bit more like this. And for each one, it could look slightly different. Yes, we're approving a lot of good customers, which is fantastic. We're declining a lot of abusers. Again, this is what we want to do. But depending on how this line looks exactly, we are also, unfortunately, insulting a lot of the good customers that we work so hard to get. And with that, we're also approving a lot of abusers. It's almost impossible to not have the outcome. The question is, to what degree? And what I want to talk to you about today is the use of data in order to better foresee a customer's behavior, new customer behavior. How can we use data? How can we use signals to try and understand what to expect from every new customer? Because not every new customer is a blank slate, especially when you use our data, our network, our different signals. We're actually able to see and understand more about a customer. And then we're trying to give you the ability to not only know what to do on a transaction level, but to also try to understand how you want to interact with them for long term. Do you expect them, that new customer, to be maybe a VIP customer, a really good one, the merchants that you've been trying to get? Maybe we can see that based on their behavior in other merchants. Maybe they're just new to you, not new to us. On the other hand, maybe we can tell you up front that you should be expecting a lot of bad behavior, a lot of INR claims, a lot of empty box returns, a lot of promo abuse. And like Jeff mentioned, I'm hoping that a lot of you are familiar with our technology on identity clustering. If not, you're more than happy to join us later on the product lab, and we can show you some of that firsthand. But what we want to do now is to also use that identity engine, identity clustering, to understand who we're dealing with, and to understand how different signals can help us better indicate future behavior. And the goal behind that vision is to help you plan your interaction with your customers and make the customer experience superior. For the good customers, you can have extra store credit, maybe an instant resolution and an instant refund for their returns. For the bad ones, you want to deny the claims. Maybe if they're submitting a return, you want to wait and get that package and check it before you give them their money back. And of course, there are borderline customers. Maybe you want to give them a warning. Maybe you just want to be on your toes. But that's pretty much it in terms of our vision. Now I want to welcome on stage Maria Vargas, VP of Customer Service for Rue Guild Group, and she'll share a little bit more about how they're seeing that vision and how they're trying to improve their customer lives using that.
By introducing who we are, Rue Guild Group, in case you are not familiar. We have been in business since about 2007. We are an off-price online e-commerce company with 3 distinct brands. All right, my notes aren't showing up on the... There we go. With 3 distinct brands. So roulala.com is one, Gilt.com is the other, and Shop Simon is the 3rd brand. Our company vision is to surprise and delight our customers. We have a membership model where we ask you to become a member of those sites before you begin your shopping journey so that we know a little bit more about you and we establish a relationship with you from the very first purchase. That surprise and delight that's been talked about in some of the other presentations is also part of our mission. And as we begin to establish a relationship with you, we also use that to drive your customer service experience. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the old model of fast ticket resolution. Customer service models are generally based on speed. How quickly can we resolve your issue versus really understanding your issue? But when you don't know who that customer is and their intent is unclear, you can often misjudge the situations. Some customers are hard to recognize, and they are actively masking who they are. This creates blind spots for your customer service agents, where they then escalate tickets. They follow rigid rules because they're not sure when to apply exceptions and when to follow the policy, so they default to those rigid policy decisions, which are really off-putting to your customers, where there is just no room to breathe. What changes the game is context. So using behavior signals, network history, and identity intelligence to make smarter, more personalized decisions. We call this a relationship-based decision-making model at RGG, where we use all of the data that we collect to make the right decisions. We want to know who we're dealing with so that we can make good decisions and we can move quickly to resolve your issues. Identity-aware intelligence gives you faster and smarter customer service. We know what that customer value is and what their risk is. What is their lifetime value? What is the behavior they've exhibited in the past? So we collect things like your returns percentage, how many exceptions we've given you to some of our policies, how many claims you've made for damaged defective items or items delivered not received. And we try to see how many different accounts you have with us, because we require you to use an email address to sign up for our websites. We oftentimes have customers who will forget which email they signed up with, so they'll try another one, or they're doing it on purpose. And so we have customers with multiple accounts. And so we often can't identify you by just that first transaction. So we have a model to identify or to really scale throughout the organization, every layer using the same relationship-based data or that identity intelligence to make the right decisions. So our customer experience leadership team uses this to get our policies in line with where we want to go as a company. So we all know that when you are a regular at a business, you expect different treatment. I always think, when I think of a regular, I think of the classic show Cheers, from the opening song where everybody knows your name to the classic character of Norm, who was greeted every time he came in. He's had the same seat. They knew his order. He was able to run a tab, so he got exceptions to probably the bar's policies that other new customers didn't get. When you're a regular, you expect a different level of treatment than when you're a first-time buyer. And so we use identity to start at the leadership level to ground our policies in risk and value, not just volume. So we want to know who you are so that we can decide when to make an exception and how many exceptions you should get as a customer. So our entire strategy is based on that relationship. That makes it easier for your frontline leadership, those frontline managers and supervisors, to make decisions when they get escalated issues. So they're not guessing, they're not just defaulting to a policy, they're really able to use that relationship and that identity signal to make the right decision, not just for the business, but for that member, so that you drive repeat business. At Rue Gilt Group, across all 3 of our sites, we rely on repeat customers for about 85% of our sales. So it's really important for us that we're making the right decisions to drive additional sales and have those folks keep coming back. But what happens to that new member when we don't know that much about you? It's still difficult to make that decision. Do we give you the benefit of the doubt as a first-time buyer, or do we act more cautiously? Having policies around identity or based in identity and customer value are key to empowering your frontline leadership as well as your customer-facing agents. They're better equipped to personalize service, they're able to de-escalate confidently, and they're able to prioritize actions. Instead of following rigid rules, they can make more human, more accurate decisions. When it comes to first-time buyers versus repeat buyers, identity and the data that we ingest from Riskified helps us make those decisions, because while they may be new to us, they're not necessarily new to Riskified, and we have some information available to us about whether or not they are a good, it's going to start on a good note, the relationship with us, or we should be cautious from the very beginning. We put that information front and center for our agents within their tool set, so they can make those decisions from the very beginning. And then we also utilize chatbots with access to identity intelligence. Even bots can make really nuanced decisions, guiding good customers to fast resolutions while flagging potential abuse for review. Our chatbots are intended to eliminate friction and level of effort for our customers and for our agents, not to alienate them from the company, because again, we very much rely on that relationship with our members in order to drive revenue. So we want to use technology thoughtfully. It's about redefining what RGG is optimizing for, and these are our key operating metrics. So we want to reduce, I'm sure like most of you, avoidable contacts, those contacts that don't need to come in because they're resolved easily via either self-service options, or the customer just doesn't have to engage with us in order to have their issue resolved. We want to increase resolution confidence, that first contact resolution. Studies have often shown that the more your customer has to put in from an effort perspective to get their issue resolved, the less likely they are to come back. And so that damages the relationship as well. So how close can we get to first contact resolution on every interaction with our members? We want to reduce the handle time and the cost in handling these contacts, particularly for known abusers, those that are trying to find ways to circumvent our policies by agent shopping. In other words, if they don't get the right answer, they come back and they keep trying different agents over and over again to see if they can get somebody to bend or flex on those policies. Or those that have very high return rates, very high claims around did not receive packages. We want to know who you are, and we want to make sure that we're reducing the time we spend with you. We also want to increase NPS, which is challenging when you're looking for efficiencies in using automation and AI, but you also want to bring your customer closer. NPI is a key measure for us so that we are able to make really great decisions for high-value members, and they feel valued from the very beginning. And then policy consistency. It's very frustrating as a consumer when you reach out to a business and one time they make an exception for you, and the next time they don't, and there's no rhyme or reason as to why you were accepted the first time and rejected the second time. So improving policy consistency is important, so that there's a branded experience and there's an experience that you can count on as a consumer, particularly if you're a repeat buyer. That's really important. And these two goals work together: protect the business from abuse while showing your best customers that they matter. So what is the difference between AI and identity-aware intelligence? Traditional AI is really just plugging in automation and scaling support. And the shift that we're making is away from that to identity-aware intelligence. It does something different. It plugs in understanding, scaling not just service, but the ability to make smarter relationship decisions. Again, back to putting all that information in front of your customer service support agent so that they can make the right decision based on the relationship you have with that customer. When you know who you're dealing with, you don't have to choose between protecting the business and delighting your customer. You can do both and at scale.